On today's video, we talk about how I got hired at Nike and fired. So my journey started in Barcelona. I started my studies in architecture. As any broke boy, started reselling shoes. I started networking, getting a hold of different people in the community. Fast forward, I started my own resale app, the first of its kind in Spain. I gathered 5,000 followers organically. Nike reached out to me. I was doing some scouting jobs, finding out people, gathering information for them, and eventually they offered me a job in marketing, in influencer marketing. I had no degree, no marketing degree. I had only the knowledge I gained for myself, for my interest in clothing and people. So once I was at Nike, the role was basically sending shoes to people, scouting new artists to sign for the brand, create seasonal campaigns, and also styling Football Club Barcelona players, which was very exciting. So you might be asking, how did I get hired? Well, I counted with a deep knowledge of limited shoes. I knew a lot about the people in the city, and this knowledge was hard to understand for some, and more especially managing relationships with people of all sort of backgrounds it's a skill. So since I was already in the sneakerhead community, I had access to all these different people, and my friends were in this community, I was in this community. So eventually they were inviting us to the events, they were giving us shoes for free. Down the line they gave us our own collaborations, our own events. It was really exciting moment. How long did I stay at Nike? Well, it was a rather strange time. You know, it was during coronavirus season. I got hired at the beginning of the virus. People were going crazy at that time, so the Nike offices had to postpone the job. Eventually, when coronavirus season was over, I started then. Fortunately, I stayed there I did this job for 6 months, and again there was another problem. There was a company restructuring, so I got fired and half of the office got fired. But I proved myself. I was still working as a freelance, helping them out, shooting some campaigns, giving them new talent, new names. And that was that. And at that time I decided it was a good time to begin my own brand. With all the information I gathered working at a big corporation like Nike, I think it was the right step. So you might be wondering where I am now. Well, after getting fired from Nike and doing some freelance jobs, I realized Barcelona was getting expensive. The taxes were too high and living expenses were also high. I decided to come to Georgia, Tbilisi, where taxes for entrepreneurs is just 1%. So you get a very good deal. It's a bit cheaper here. I'd say the weather is much better than places like Dubai, which also have a similar tax break. It has amazing infrastructure here in Georgia. I mean, it's a bit in the middle of nowhere. It's between Europe and Asia, but regardless, there's great buildings, great infrastructure in the past years, a lot of development. I have to say it's a hard place to sell your product. There's not really a market or demand here. You have to really target a consumer that's worldwide. So you might be wondering what's next for me. Georgia's a great place. I already set everything up business-wise here, but I really feel there's some holes in my knowledge when it comes to fashion, and I would really like to intern into some bigger fashion houses, maybe in Paris, New York, any upcoming brand that has more experience. But In the meantime, I really have a lot of goals when it comes to the brand Cyrus. I really want to rebrand a bit, emphasize on the things that should be the core of my brand, which is a bit of storytelling. For example, creating imagery that's reminiscing of the early 2000s, like old school Yoi campaigns, old school Calvin Klein, which had a lot of personality when it comes to the imagery. And also, I want to focus on the branding. I really care about logos. I really care about having a strong identity in those terms, as well as themes in like old school college frat vibes, Ivy League vibes, which I think have a lot of personality in them, a lot of energy, as well as like army themes, World War II vibes, vintage, you know. There's a lot of character in those garments, and I'd like to go deeper in that. I'm coming up with a collection pretty soon. I'm still figuring out the logistics matters. I really want to have a goal of creating cut and sew garments, so not rely on blanks. So I think that'd be a huge step for us. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for learning a bit about me, who I am, and what I want to do next. So I'll see you next time.